I recently had a question on how to deal with a drop stitch after you've cast off your tube. So I wanted to go ahead and demo this for y'all so that it might be helpful for any of you if you experience like having a drop stitch after you do a cast off. One of the things that you are going to want to have in your arsenal when you are using your circular knitting machines are some stitch markers. They're really an essential item to have when you're dealing with, having drop stitches and being able to capture them. And I have these here that I believe I got these on Amazon and they work great. What I went ahead and did is I pulled out my long tail cast on yarn and I went through, and this is actually a stitch that I'm going to show you what it'll look like dropped. I went through and put these little stitch markers in here because I'm going to have to pull this back out to capture that again. So I just wanted to show you what this looks like. So what you can do is if you find that you've cast off your tube and you have a drop stitch, I would go through and put these little stitch markers on all of your stitches up to that drop stitch point or right after it. That way you can go back through and put your cinch line back in accurately. Hopefully that makes sense. Well, the first thing you want to do, I've got my crochet hook holding that dropped stitch because I have my line going back through all the rest of them. But as you can see, it's not through this stitch. So I'm going to let go of this, take a deep breath, and then I'm going to pull some of this out. So let me go ahead and use my needle here so I can show you what this will look like if you have a drop stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull some of these out. So pull these little ladder stitches out of there, you can see. And this is what it's going to look like. So let's get it kind of far, not too far down, but this is what a drop stitch is going to look like. So it's going to look like this. You're going to have, and you're going to be like, whoa, what's going on when you take this off? And if you pull, if I get my tube and I pull it, it's going to continue to drop. Whoops, sorry, I bumped the camera there. So that's what it looks like. And here's our live stitch. This right here is our live stitch. That's the thing that'll hold that stitch in place. And these are all the rows that have now dropped. And it can continue. If I pull it, it's going to continue to drop. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take a stitch marker and get that live stitch. So you want to look for the little loop, the last little loop. And this is the right side of the yarn, okay? The right side of our tube. I'm going to stick this in there and save that. That's going to save it so it won't continue to drop. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my tube inside out. And the reason being is if this was still on the machine, you're going to have, this is going to be the side that you would see. This is the side that you're going to want to fix it off of, if that makes sense. So now I'm doing this through the camera. It's a little difficult. I've got that stitch right there where I've grabbed it. I'm going to push that stitch marker through to this side so that it's on the wrong side now. So my loop is on the wrong side now, if that makes sense. This is just easier for me to do it this way. This is why I'm doing it this way. It just works better for my brain. So now I've got that stitch on the proper side. So I'm going to bring my crochet hook in and I'm going to lay it underneath all those ladder or rows. I call it the ladder. But I'm going to lay it underneath all of those. So here we go. And I'm going to come up, and I'm doing this through the camera again. It's a little wonky. I'm going to come up and go through that. I can leave that stitch marker on there. It's not going to hurt anything. So now I've got all of my dropped rows and I've got now my captured stitch, my working stitch. Okay, now I'm going to go over that stitch with the first row next to it. Hopefully you can see this. And then I'm going to grab that, my working stitch, and I'm going to pull this through that. And then I'm going to keep going. And you just got to make sure that you don't twist your rows. You don't want to twist your rows. So here's my working stitch now. And I'm going to put the next row over it, hold it up there. I'm going to grab a hold of my working stitch and I'm going to pull that through. So now I've got the next row. Let me make sure they're not twisted. Okay. And then I'm going to put that over my working stitch, hold it up there. Oops. Grab a hold of it and pull it through. And you got to be careful not to, to split your yarn. That can happen. I do like using these little plastic crochet hooks for this because it seems to work really well. So I bring that next one over, grab a hold of it, bring it through. And then now here's our last row. We're going to take it over, hold it up here. We're going to bring that through. I almost split it there. Okay, so now we're back up to the top. So now I can take this one off because we've already knitted that in. And now I can put that stitch marker right back into that working stitch so it'll hold it. I can pull out my crochet hook and let me show you what this looks like. So now I have recaptured those stitches. So now the thing is, it's going to be a little wonky. It will be a little wonky where you fixed it. You're going to need to stretch it. You're going to need to stretch it. Whoops, I got to make sure I don't pop my stitches off or my stitch marker off there. Hold on. I want to make sure that I keep that on there. There we go. So you're going to just stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch, just like you do on your tube, to try to get it back to where those stitches are normal, if that makes sense. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and here is my cast off yarn. I'm going to try to do this through the camera. I've captured all my stitches with these stitch markers. So, and you can see here's my cast off line. I'm going to pull that one out, but since I have the stitch markers on there, it should be fine. It shouldn't drop my stitches. It should hold on to them. I'm going to pull that out of there like that. And then we're going to go here. Let me go here. We're going to pull that out. This is the one where we fixed it. Let me make sure it's not twisted there. There we go. We want to pull that up. Okay. Okay, so there we go. Where's my line? My line is here. Oh, you know what? That slipped off my stitch. Yes. I believe. Let me see. Let me see my line. Yes, it slipped off my stitch. So let me fix that. That should be on here, not on, it's on my actual cast line here. So let me do that. Let me take it off of there. Sorry about that. Don't mean to confuse you. It's when it popped open, I put it on the wrong one. Okay, so this is there's our line. Okay, there we go. So this is our, let me untwist it. There we go. So there's the area where we fixed it. There's the area where we fixed it. See that? That's where we picked it all up. This is our working stitch. So now we're back to, you can see here, and let me get my needle. If I pull up on my cast off line, you can see here's a working stitch. You can see these. Here's a working stitch right there. So we're good because now I've got this going. See, there's a working stitch. We've got those through all those stitches. So now I just have to put my needle back on my cast off line. Hold on, and I will show you. And we'll use where we have the stitch markers to work it back in. So I know this one's really loose, but we just need to cinch everything. So now I go through that one, and then let me pull on that. We can go through that one, pull that through, pull this up. We can go through that one, pull that through, go through that. Now the biggest challenge you'll have is just not, trying to keep everything straight and not twisted. But I will tell you, now we can take all these off because now we've got our lines going through all of our working stitches. So now we'll be able to cinch it. But now let me show you once I stretch it. Okay, so let me stretch my tube. So now we've got it all cast off. I know it looks a little loosey-goosey. Let me stretch it and then I'll show you. Okay, you can see there now I've given it some really good stretches and gotten the knitting back to the shape that it needs to be in. Now, sometimes you can still see a little bit of variation when you do this, but for the most part, you can see you can't really tell. So now if it drops all the way down, like you get a real long ladder, you'll want to give it, not only stretch it lengthwise, but you're going to want to stretch it widthwise too to get your knitting back to where it looks normal. So now, since I redid all of the redid all of those stitches and got my cinch line where it needs to be, I can just cinch it up. Now, obviously I don't have this right because I typically would bring my other end around, but you can see it's all good to go. I've picked up all my stitches and I no longer have any drop stitches. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions, you can always shoot me a message.